Hello, everybody. How we doing today? How we doing? Hello. Hello. Hey, what's up? So, Wednesdays are usually days that we do new Rollos and everything. But, people, everybody needed a little bit of a rest today. People needed some rest and everything. So it's just like, yeah. Okay. Well, first, before you share the ideas of NPCs and everything, let's get into the class lecture and everything of like all that and everything. I appreciate you for wanting to share the NPCs. I enjoy I enjoy like the drive and everything. But let's just hold up a little bit. Hold up. Just hold up. This is like we're going to be talking about how to craft NPCs and everything and all that stuff. That's what DM talks about. Yes, but yeah, when we got no people coming in, yeah. Oh shit, 25 streams. That's a lot. That's a lot. But yeah, with players unable to like get together and everything, and needing some rest and all that stuff, we're going to be talking. This is what DM. Oh god, my brain. That's what DMs talks are for. Where we're just like gonna like offer a little bit some classes and like talk about this stuff and everything. Let me get some lo-fi up in here so it's not too. Oh Jesus. Okay. All right. Let's actually. I don't want it to be entirely gone and stuff. All right, there we go. Now we got some music and everything. All right. But yes, Zelda here was demanding pets and stuff, so that's why I'm in this position instead of my usual position here. Okay, can I stream now? Stream? Okay, you're good. What? I had to stream. Okay? I'm sorry. Alright, let's get started here. Alright. Class is in session, motherfuckers. Let's get rolling. Let's get popping and rolling. Okay. So in remind me later. I don't need an update right now for apps right now. Okay, so with classes in session, absolutely. Okay, so with D&D or any other tabletop RPGs, one of the more important elements to like help out with like the game and everything is going to be NPCs. Everyone enjoys talking with an NPC. Everyone enjoys interacting with them. Sometimes feuding with them for no apparent reason, romancing an NPC, or just beating the absolute shit out of them for like being absolute shitheads and everything. And NPCs are a fun little way of like building the world and stuff. I feel like it very much kind of like if it's a way to like how like people are reflected to the world that's not just like the players, where the NPCs kind of give the tone of how people generally feel about the world that they're living in the setting and stuff. So yeah, so I know with like DMing and everything, it can be kind of a harrowing task of like, oh, how do you do characters? How do you make these characters and everything? Well, I know it's scary, but we're gonna break it down and everything. So I think what to do and everything to like start things off to get those training wheels on is building NPCs around the player's backstory. Because if you've ever been like a DM or a player and everything, sometimes players will mention their backstory of like certain characters that they have are related to their character for their backstory and stuff. And that's kind of like a nice way for the DM to be like, oh, okay, so I have a little bit of a reference points and everything. And I think if you're going to be if you're DMing and you're going to be using a character who is a part of the player's backstory and stuff, I should probably make sure this is not too overly loud and stuff and all that for the music, that you should very much so have a conversation with the player and be like, okay, what's the general tone of this character that is a part of your backstory and everything and all that stuff, and what are kind of like the ways that you kind of expect them to like be, because sometimes there's the person that only the character knows when they're just like in front of them, and then when they're behind doors or anything, who knows, they might be completely different. They might be engaged with the BB&G in some way and all that stuff, you know, the cool stuff and everything, and just very much building off that. And then you can start like very much weaving kind of like connections of like the backstory NPCs with other NPCs that could that's correlated with other NPCs along with that stuff, everything, you know. So yeah, and I think very much so, like for NPCs in general, you kind of want to like make it down to like you want like your core NPCs that are going to be making appearance through like the entirety of the campaign, or maybe in the entirety of the campaign, perhaps sporadically and stuff and everything. Or the other category is kind of like the non-permanent cast members, kind of like one-off NPCs, kind of like Deal and Shindig and everything and all that stuff. And all that. So let's use New Rawless as example and everything, because let's use our beloved detective, our beloved best goblin dad, best goblin detective, ex-cop, because ACAB baby, Dick Angelo. Oh God. So Dick very much was kind of like written to be kind of like, you had the dream again. Okay, gotcha. Oh man, that's a crazy ass dream. Oh man, I'm sorry about that. What the world is trying to tell you with that if it's giving you that dream again? But for an NPC, so with Dick Angelo, it was kind of like not like the confronting NPC. It was kind of more kind of like those NPCs that are kind of like designed and created because of the actions of the players, of what they're doing and stuff. And they're like, it's kind of like the Jim Gordon with Batman and everything. Like, kind of wants to do it by the book and everything. Kind of wants to believes in a system that they kind of like dedicated their life to, but kind of realizing, hey, there's some flaws here and everything. And how Dick is wanting to like help out the party, and very much so kind of like showing them and trusting them so much that he shows them to his family and his connection with Evie, and just like overall being such a wonderful, chill dude. And then kind of like standing on business, because when the invasion happened and everything, Dick very much was worried about the party. And I think that's something to always correlate to of everything. Like, you want kind of like a small group of like NPCs that are very much, I don't want to say make them all ride or die, like very much in their quarter with their own ways of support and everything, because variety is the spice of life. Like, you can have one person being kind of like the emotional support and guidance and everything, like Dick. You can have the one goofy side NPC who's very much kind of like, yeah, like I like very much kind of like the levity to like make sure it's not everyone can like breathe a little bit and stuff, and also provides kind of like some like grounding moments with their humor as the way of kind of like, hey, gotcha like Distill and everything, like Distill, how he's very much kind of like this goofy laid back bartender and everything, but he does have like pearls of wisdom that he'll kind of like drop in just to be kind of like, because being a bartender, you're aware of people and how they react and stuff, and he wants to make sure everyone is chill and having fun and stuff. And then you have the very much of ride and die people and all that stuff. And I think the closest people, for example, for New Walls, that I don't think there is like a ride or die NPC. Well, I guess there is. Like, Hilda, I think Hilda would be classified as ride or die, but it's not the intensity of, it doesn't have the same intensity of ride or die. Because Hilda is also like an NPC built off of Harlan's backstory. Like, originally when I wrote New Rawless or anything, she was kind of like those main NPCs that was written because like the Ichor Takers and the Pettigue, the Blind Dragon, the Roof Runners, the Scale Brewers, we were all NPCs that I crafted in the beginning of this campaign and stuff. And then with Seiko's character, Harlan, with the Evermore and stuff, like, was like, hey, what if I had this like connection with Hilda? And it just kind of like grew into like this really cool relationship of like, hey, I know you want to do good and everything. I love that you're doing good and stuff and everything, but also I don't want you to die. So I'm gonna ride and die, but I'm all gonna make sure you're not gonna die for yourself and everything for your cause and stuff. And those very much kind of like ease the players into like this comfortability of like NPCs that they can go to and talk with and stuff. And very much so they can also expand of like talking with other NPCs and everything like that and stuff. And checking out other stuff in the world, the town they are in, or just like even so, what I kind of like seeing and everything when it comes to like NPC building is that when a player succeeds on a roll of like doing a history check and everything, I love when DMs go like, who do you think you would know in this town that could provide you with this information? So it's like that collaborative quick build of NPC building and everything, and you can just like be like, yeah, 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 and all that also helps with getting the players engaged with like these NPCs that they're with and all that stuff. Then you kind of have like the middle ground NPCs of with very much kind of like the half shit stirrers and half not shit stirrers and everything. Because I would say Jin is very much one of those shit stirrers and everything from like New Raleigh. Like he was like kind of like an antagonist, but then he very much molded because he interacted with the players and his story and stuff to like be reflective and all that. So yeah, it's also fun to see when you have like NPCs that aren't like flat out antagonistic to like your party and everything, but kind of like challenge them in ways that either gets them that does get them engaged to interact with them more and like challenge the NPC themselves to be kind of like, why are you doing this to me? What's up here? And then just kind of like start having like these mini feuds back and forth and all that stuff. And and all that. And also, it's okay to have like one and done NPCs and everything. I feel like, especially with like newcomer NPCs, with newcomer DMs and everything, it's very much of a case of like, oh God, I need to make all these NPCs impactful or memorable with these amazing performances and stuff. And it's just like, okay, love the energy, love the energy. Bring it down a few notches with that expectation of perfectionism and everything, and let's just like not dilute it, more kind of like break it down to chunks and place them in the right routes to be able to like equal spread, so you're not like panicking and stuff and everything. Because I feel like if you want an example of like interesting one-off NPCs that either just appear out of nowhere and like very much or have like a short span of screen time, but yet are still impactful and memorable. I think a good example of a DM to look at, it would be Brennan Lee Mulligan and stuff, how he able to like make these NPCs so memorable and everything. And just even when they're just like NPCs that you won't like that don't affect the plot whatsoever, but still are able to leave kind of like whether it's like for a bit, a gag, or for like an accented moment and said thing and all that stuff, it's always good to like look at that and being like, all right, what is the purpose of this one-off NPC correlated to like the player choices or the story or environment that's going on and stuff and everything and all that stuff. So yeah, when it comes to describing NPCs, I feel like very much describing is NPCs can be hard to do because you don't want to. Yeah. Remember to pull out your notebooks and remember to like jot this down and stuff. And we'll make sure to have this VOD out for the Tail Gills YouTube channel, which you should go totally check out. Actually, let me put that in the okay. Okay, hang on. Command. I spelled it wrong. Fuck. God, can't spell my own AP channel correctly. Did I not have? Okay. There we go. That's hilarious. Third time's the charm. All right. Okay, so Very much so. Like when you are crafting NPCs and describing them, make sure to like also be aware of like something that's always important is like with representation when it comes to like storytelling and everything, because like it's important for like representation for any storytelling medium for to like make sure people are being seen and heard and all that stuff. So if there are certain characters in mind that are from like a specific from a like a from a specific skin color, species, from like D&D and everything and all that stuff. Like make sure to kind of like specify that and all that too. And also to it also helps you to get more aware of your own things of like kind of like, okay, what can I do to be better representation when these NPCs and stuff? Because like variety is the spice of life and stuff. But also, I think very much if you're not good as at very much physically describing NPCs or characters in general, similes, my favorite ways to describe an NPC quickly and that is effective for the players to understand what the vibe is of the character they're just emanating, what's emanating. It's I know the word. I just got hit with a combination of hiccup and burp at once. Oh, buddy. Oh God. Oh lordy. Emanating. Is it emanating? It is emanating because it's EMINITING. I need. Hey, what's up, Melissa? Okay, hold on. Okay. Emanate. Emanate. Okay. Oh, well, I spelled it wrong. It's actually EMANATING. Okay. Well, let's see what's the speaker says. Oh, okay. Emanating. Okay. But yeah, very much of character. Like, if you want to be able to find a way to like start off the path of like describing characters when you're not good at physical descriptions, just describe the vibe that they give off and everything. Like, very much just kind of like describe them in the way of like imagery, similes, and idioms and stuff. Words are hard. Words are very, very hard. Words are hard. Yes, thank you. And also, it's okay to look up words on the dictionary to understand what they mean and how to pronounce them and everything. We don't shame here. Yeah, we don't shame here. But yeah, very much like that and stuff. That's how I do. I think again, Brenna Lee Mulligan is also very good at this and stuff, and how he very much kind of like I think my favorite thing that he has described with like an NPC is the wicked stepmother from Never After from the Dimension 20 campaign Never After and everything. How the wicked stepmother was like described as like the devil who smiled a wicked smile or something along that line. It was like one of those cold hard lines that came out of nowhere and stuff, and you just like immediately got like the vibe of this character. So I have an idea of how to describe one of my OCs. I think it works. Okay, yeah. We got time for like for a little bit of like kind of like the for that. Yeah. What helps? Yeah. So chat and everything. What are kind of like the ways that you guys like to describe your OCs or characters or NPCs and stuff and everything? Yeah. Because describing NPCs are very hard to do. It can be very hard to do, and it's very intimidating because you don't want to like over detail of like every particular thing and stuff, or like give too little where it's like a little bit too vague and everything and all that stuff. And if you're not good at it in the start of it all, and you're not ready to like very much to like go ahead and like use like imagery, idioms, and similes to describe the vibes of the character and stuff, Hero Forge, Pick Crew, Baldur's Gate character creation, Veilguard character creation. What's the other good character creation? game that does pretty well. Dragon's Dogma's 2 character creation I heard was really, really good. So, yeah. Yeah. So those will also be like good ways to like present to your players of what they look like, everything, and all that. You can just like share them in like your chat and all that stuff. Yeah. Okay. What we got here? You see a young woman has a hair vibrant, some emeralds, hair is down some ways. Look at this girl. Yeah, that's kind of like a good basic. That's a good description, like right there for an OC and everything. Very much kind of like using image. That's what I was talking about, like the imagery and stuff and everything. Kind of like using kind of like comparisons of like what we know from the environment, what we've seen around the world, and all that stuff. And kind of like it's like nice, simple. Don't need to go too hard on it and all that stuff. So yeah. All right. Okay. Okay. I'm just gonna look at my notes here just to make sure. Okay. 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 So, what to make? Building up pairs of backstory and stuff and everything. So, I think something that is also important with like when it comes to like that is Amber. Yeah. So I think something that is very important when it comes to NPCs and stuff is how to make them engaging with your character, with not your character, with your players and everything. Because we want your because you want your players to be interacting the world and everything. And the first way to be able to help them to interact with said world is doing the thing with the NPCs. That's like that is the gateway drug and all that stuff. And I think so with some of the things of it and all, it's very much of the case of wanting to do good, of just like you start off small. You start off small of just kind of like NPCs that would know the players, NPCs that are friendly towards them, that kind of give them that nice gentle support and all that stuff. And I think also how like some of the friendly NPCs are tied within said plot or quests and everything, and that also kind of like leads the players to like very much to like engage further with other NPCs that are connected with said quests. Because let's say for example, your best friend NPC and everything is kind of like has a huge debt from like this whole not militia, huge loan shark party group that works for a gang and everything, and they're very much like the loan shark group. Kind of, it can't be a surprise character that randomly. Yeah, you can't really do that. You can't really just throw in a random surprise character like that, because you can only do random surprise characters when like the player very much gives you the blank sheet character backstory sheet and go and says, go ahead, make up my backstory. I don't remember anything of what happened. And you're like, all right, here we go. And like even then and stuff, I feel like when like crafting that and everything, you want to have those daily check-ins with that player to be kind of like, all right, what do you think the past of your... Now you know more and more of what your character was in like the past and stuff very much. How do you think the relationship was and everything, or how could it be like been molded out and everything? Yeah, okay. Yeah, have a great night, Pac-Man. Thanks for hanging out with us and stuff. But no. Best friend NPC takes a loan from the Underground Empire, and very much is like, I'm in trouble. So that kind of leads to like a chain reaction for, like for example, in my mass campaign, we said Mother decided, definitely like that. But yeah, much love. Very much of this just like, and that group of in the party is very much when we're like wanting to interact with the NPC group that is kind of like fucking up with their friends and stuff. And that can like lead you to like building kind of like the NPCs that push the button of being like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What are you going to do about it? And that leads to cool back and forth and everything and all that stuff. And I think also, and that also leads to a chain reaction of like how other NPCs will react to like said gang underground empire getting their shit rocked and everything, and you can build something off of that and stuff. I would like to think more of an interesting poll is the friendly gardener NPC that's secretly a cultist or something. Yeah, I think so. I think very much of like when you have like friendly NPCs who are very much have like the one persona that they're all accustomed to, but that's the only persona you see them when they're out in public, but like doors closed, no one's looking, they're entirely something else. But if you're gonna have a character that's secretly something and everything, I think the important thing to do is to kind of also check in with the players of how they feel about NPC betrayals and everything, because especially with your consent checklist and session zeros and stuff, which you should totally do and stuff. Remember to do session zeros, remember your consent checklist and everything, because like those are always kind of hard to do when like a beloved NPC. God, what is worse, when a beloved NPC dies or when a beloved NPC betrays you and everything and all that? And I think if you're going the route of like the beloved NPC is kind of like the double agent of like the other group and everything, you want to leave like the tracks and trails and opportunities for the players to notice, so that way you can have like interesting opportunities to either change the directory trajectory of that NPC to not be like the baddie. If the DM does not have a consent checklist, that is red flag. Absolutely red flag. Absolutely. Like, I'm not gonna play with any like party or group or anything that doesn't do like a consent checklist. Like, nah, man. Nah. It's one thing if it's like a group that I've been with like forever and everything, and we all know the general vibe and all that, and we can just do like a quick like discussion of like, all right, any updates, any new stuff and everything and all that. But no. But when it comes to like NPCs that are like that, are just like one surface and then they're entirely something else, like let's look at Essek from like campaign 2 of Critical Role and everything, which like I enjoy Essek. I love Essek. I think Essek is a very cool multifaceted character and stuff. And if the player is it necessary, I think it would be yeah, definitely that. But like, look at Essek of how he was very much kind of like revealed to be like a baddie, like baddie, but also baddie as well and everything, and how they were also able, how the Mighty Nine was able to kind of like with that information was able to help Essek kind of like steer away from that path and everything and just be kind of like be changed for the better. And now we have kind of like great sad boy yaoi D&D stuff. Well, I don't know if it's sad boy yaoi for like Caleb and Essek and all that. Well, no, because didn't they kind of like separate later on? We're going off track here. Reel it back in. God, where's my mind today? Yeah. But yeah, no. Very much so that you want to leave those tracks if an NPC is like secretly something else and everything, and you want to give the players the opportunity to be able to like, hey, talk no jutsu? Do you need a jingle keys emote? I might, like, it's been a while since I've like gotten new emotes for my from the Twitch channel here, but I might just need like a set of new emotes where it's very much ADHD and autism focus and everything. Oh god, that's gonna be that's gonna go on the list here. But yeah. Why did it not? It did not. I have the mix it up. Oh my god, Twitch. I swear to God. All right. Well, I'm sorry about that, buddy. But no, yeah. Yeah, given that opportunity just to be able to like talk no, yeah, I don't know about Twitch. Twitch is weird. Like talk no jutsu gets shit on with like Naruto and everything, but it's something always amazing to see of how when a player from the party is able to change the NPCs like for the good or better and everything and all that stuff. I keep hearing Markiplier like jingle jingle and everything. Yeah, exactly. I'm excited for Iron Long. But yeah, and I think very much so something to remember when it comes to like being a DM in general and stuff is that NPCs can also change as well. They're not, well, they're sort of bound by the way that they are and what they can do. But NPCs are also people. And people, it's going to be a sibling outing to see. Yay, awesome. But but NPCs also evolve as people over time and stuff and everything and all that stuff. I think that's also kind of like the case. That's something that will always be good. Because when like certain events and choices that the players do that affect the NPCs and they can be changed and all that stuff, that's always interesting and fascinating and all that stuff. That's always fascinating and great to see how NPCs have changed and yet they still have retained a little bit of a sliver of what they were once and everything. It's so much fun. I love it when I love that so much. And sometimes, hey, you may I was gonna say. Yes. And also sometimes one-off NPC might also just be like a beloved NPC that everyone enjoys because the gimmick that they were doing was so great, and they're just like, you know what, you're coming with us, and all that, and all that. Kind of like the Weewell effect for Cloud Ho and everything. God, I love Weevil. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. They should evolve. They should be unique and evolved by the players as the players' characters evolve. Exactly. And it's something to also think about that the thing about like NPCs and everything, they can also be flawed human beings as well, just like the players and everything. Like they will make unrash decisions that is based on pure emotion and stuff and everything. According to what happens with, you know, the NPC choices and stuff and everything. Like using New Rollins' example again, I had a fun non-plot twist NPC the bigger of a speech. Okay, cool. Okay. Like, let's look at Apple from like New Rollins and everything. He was an NPC from like early New Rollins and everything when like the group very much went to the Nine Hells to get Sylvie back after she got like yoinked into the Nine Hells and everything. And when the group found Zelvi with like locked up and like everything, there were also very much a grandpa and also a kid as well. I think it was a halfling teenager or stuff. I think that what Apple was and stuff. And like they did not have the time to like save all of them. They were very much just like, hey, we're gonna get you, our friend, and we don't have time for your grandpa. Sorry and everything. Let me put an example of NPCs that evolved an NPC, a character. I got a rat queen in an RPG. Got turned to the Three Keys member of the Triangle Group. That was wonderful. Yeah, that's always good. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and with Apple and stuff and everything, kind of like very much of like, hey, you left my grandpa, who was very close to me and stuff. And very much it's kind of like that first incident of like Harlan almost dying and everything with like the dagger stab, and then Harlan being able to having like the talk of like, I'm not angry at you, like that's totally good, I understand and everything and all that, and just having kind of like that honest talk of very much of like, not gonna fight you, kind of deserve that. But it was just like really, really cool and all that stuff. Like, it's okay for NPCs to be flawed and not optimized and stuff and everything. Like, not every NPC is going to be kind of like this super genius NPC that has like the total instincts of like the DM of like, what should I do logically to be able to make myself succeed and stuff. But very much so of like, DM playing the NPCs is like, what would this NPC do that makes sense for them to do and all that stuff. So yeah, I never actually got into a campaign long enough for characters department, but I always loved D&D, seeing Critical Role and how their characters evolve over time. So yeah, it is. That's like the cool thing with like D&D and TTRPGs and with players, and especially with like NPCs in general and stuff, because player characters are the force of nature that kind of shake up the ground frame of this world. And for better or worse, their actions can also shape the characters from what they once were into something else. And I think it's always interesting when you have these NPCs that are like still the same after the long journey, but yet they have these minuscule changes of where the party just kind of like gets the absolute glee when they kind of like see that glint of the kind of like dropping this kind of like persona of like very much like, it's like, oh, it's like that hype moment where everyone goes, yeah. Yeah, because I feel like for me, one of my favorite NPC characters is not Adine, Eggford. God, what's her name? God, what's Agatha? No, it's not Agatha. Oh God, what's Arthur Eggford's child's name? God, I know her because I love her so much. Okay, no, is it Agatha? It's not. Hold on. We have the internet. Egg for child. Fantasy. Hi. Okay. Ada. Okay, hold on. Okay. Hey, what's up, Viking? All right. Okay. Yeah, Ada. How do you pronounce that? How Ida? God, I feel horrible, but yeah, Ida Bear. Ida Eggfort, I feel like it's one of those interesting characters where very much of how they're kind of like very much shaped from like the interactions of like with Fig, and like very much kind of like reflecting on that change throughout the entire campaign from like sophomore and junior year and everything. What the hell is going on with Bear, Wolf, Lion? What's going on here? Are we having like some dark fantasy romance version of The Wizard of Oz here? Please don't write that. Nobody, we don't want a dark fantasy romance of The Wizard of Oz. Nope. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. I'm looking at you. Looking at you, Book Talk. I'm looking at you. No. Okay. Okay. I think back to the evolution of Normie from Mad Men's Fenrir's American Wizard series. Yeah. Kind of like that and everything. How like Ida very much kind of like was like in the beginning of sophomore year was kind of like, you know, just kind of like very much kind of like straightforward and everything, but like interacting with Fig more kind of like opened her up more with these expressions and just allowing herself to like be kind of like a goofball as well and everything. All right, okay. Me and Robin played Blood Brothers and D&D. I was a bearkin, he was the Leon, and hence the animals. Ah, gotcha. No, me and Viking always call him Bear because he was a bear in the RP. Okay, cool. I was like, what's happening? What happened? What happened? But no, yeah, I think that's always really cool. To kind of like see characters evolve, the NPCs evolve and like change from like interacting with the NPCs and all that stuff. But okay. So, if you got friendly NPCs, my nickname is also a bear because I'm a big hairy guy. Hey. No, that's a cool nickname. That is a cool nickname. That is a cool nickname. That is a very cool nickname. But I just thought of my werewolf character that I haven't really written into anything yet. Okay, cool. I'm also a bi, so hey, man, pretty cool. Okay, so but with like friendly NPCs and everything, it's also important to have like the antagonist NPCs and everything. The ones that very much challenge the players in ways that kind of like challenge their backstory, their theories so said of what their character's perspective is on their life and motivations and stuff, or just general kind of like push the button and all that stuff and being kind of like, yeah, I pushed it. I'm gonna push all these buttons here and just see what happens. Those are always gonna be kind of like that great, interesting thing and stuff and all that. And I think with that and everything, when you have a group, when you have your players able to like unify their hatred to like one NPC because they're also just a shit as well, you're doing something good. You're doing something good. Because let's look at Rose Evelyn here, very much so. Like, smarty pants, thinks she's the smartest person in the world and stuff, and just very much has like these moments of like, yeah, I'm the smartest person in the room. I'm not gonna hide it. I will flaunt that and I will just slap you in the face with it. But I think it's also important to like also, and this is kind of like one of my things that I tend to do of like not I tend to do a little bit too much of like humanizing the baddies, or like not humanizing, too much like providing the empathy for like the baddies and stuff, and kind of like showing like even their like persona of the bad of being the antagonist and stuff is kind of like a front for some flaws and everything and all that. Okay, plays, I think, would it be antagonistic if necessary, not full antagonistic, but exhibiting antagonistic behavior due to a character. Yeah, definitely. Like, if you look back on our last session of New Raleigh and everything, you kind of see that Rose very much was kind of like not teetering on the edge of like panicking and stuff, but she was having a hard time, especially when she was like in the alleyway talking to Kenneth, of being kind of like, all right, the gears are turning. What do I do now with the plan and stuff? And just showing those like little interactions with antagonist NPCs with their own group and everything. I think it also kind of adds like these dimensions as well for the party to be kind of like, oh, okay, I see here. I still fucking hate this person. I want to beat the shit out of them and all that stuff. So yeah, I think that's also pretty important as well. And I think it's important to remember when and where the antagonist NPCs are allowed to press the buttons and everything of your part of the party and the character of said characters and stuff. Because I think if you go a little bit, because I think if you go too hard on all the NPCs going pressing the buttons and everything, they're just gonna like go flat out like, all right, screw the long build up to like kill this NPC. I'm gonna do it just now and all that stuff. So I think very much with like antagonist NPCs, you want them to be haunting the story. You want them to be kind of like an omniscient force of like their own nature that's also infecting the environment of the story and everything. And when those when the party when the player characters and the antagonist NPCs clash together finally, or have these moments of clashing, it's like this wild tornado storm of like hot wind, cold wind crashing in and just building into like one crazy ass high level. I just spat at my desk. Oh dear God. Leif was fine, Ken is entertaining as Alistair finds Charlie. If Kenneth would, I don't know, Kenneth would find that amusing or be kind of like insulted in a way. God, I feel like that would be kind of like an ego hit for Kenneth and be kind of like, 1 second, I'm gonna ruin your social life and make sure everyone fucking hates you. But no, yeah, I think with antagonist NPCs being like this different category and everything, I feel like when it comes to antagonist NPCs, there are 3 different tiers. You have kind of like via the bully tier, where they're kind of like just like kind of like, hey, fuck you, blah, 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 and kind of like all that. The second tier, okay, sadly, I gotta head to bed. I still have work in the morning, but we'll DM. Okay, yeah, yeah, no, totally good. Get some rest, buddy. Get some rest. Get some rest. Thanks for popping by. Very much so of just like the second tier being kind of like these NPCs that the player characters are kind of afraid to interact with, either because due to their story of like how they kind of hold weight and like control over their lives and stuff. Of it's kind of like not disappointing your parent kind of energy, kind of like that, but they kind of like do the buttons of like they'll scold you and like, no, you're pressing the buttons wrong here and everything. This is how you do it. And they take over that seat of the player and like rearranging the set of buttons you have placed out and stuff and everything. And I think that's always an interesting balance to do when like you have like other NPCs and players being kind of like, hey, that one antagonist NPC you keep interacting with, very much like that's a dick. Like you want us to fuck him up for you and everything, and like having those kind of like pillars and bridge built from those NPCs to be kind of like for that player to be able to like, yeah, I want to punch this one in the face and everything. Blaze, is that meant to mean something to me? You're dealing with a child of God of madness and chaos. You really want to be just Kenneth wouldn't care. Kenneth wouldn't care. He would not care. He'd very much be like, all right, that's a challenge for a boy. And the third one is very much the BBEG ones. The ones that are very much are just kind of like, all right, I have clashing ideals with you guys and everything, or I have the same ideals of you guys, but we're doing it in kind of like the extreme measure and everything. And you guys are in my way. So you know what? I'm gonna fuck you all up and everything. And I think very much like the great antagonist NPCs are the ones that are able to like pick and choose when they hack the mainframe of the player characters and push the button. Or even better, I think this imagery works and everything. I think something to think about is when the players press a safety button and everything. That's usually a safety one, and then the antagonist NPC is able to build up the resources logically and stuff to be able to be like, ha, you activated my trap card, trap hole, and everything. And kind of like set off the players into kind of like a little bit of a scramble for, and like the antagonist NPCs to be like, I have the high ground now. What are you gonna do to rebuild that hill to like so we're back on the equal level field and all that stuff? Kind of vibe and everything, you know? Okay, crack snack, try me. You get the first hit. Oh damn, okay, we're not okay, this is not the time for like for the character interaction here, but damn, that's actually a dope ass line. That's a dope ass line. If it's fisticuffs, Kenneth would absolutely fucking suck because he is not a strengthy Dexy boy. He's a warlock. He's a warlock wizard and everything. He don't got them hands. He don't. But no. And yeah. That's something to always think about when it comes to like your antagonist NPCs. And I also think very much when it comes to antagonist NPCs and everything is that providing that even when providing to the players that the stuff that they can do to the players, they can also do back to the NPC and everything. I think that's something that's also should be important for every DM out there, is that the route that NPCs do to affect the players and everything should be sort of in the same path, or like a path they're able to like excessively build to kind of like get their receipt and everything. Pro wrestling term and everything. Receipt basically is like, all right, you punch me hard and everything, I'm gonna punch you back and everything. So kind of like that and everything. And like being able to kind of like do like this this game of chicken everything of kind of like, all right, who's gonna veer off first and everything, who's gonna like drive off the road and kind of like go just like and then it's kind of like that ego like pride marker on the board and everything. And then you can have like if your antagonist NPCs lose that game of chicken and everything, that's when you can kind of like up the ante and everything. You can up the intensity, up the tier of what's going to happen next and all that stuff. And also remember to have the clues set in of what's going to be happening with like the next plan of those antagonist NPCs. I think also a great thing to do for like your players and everything with like your NPCs and stuff, for them to be able to comment on the world of what's happening in the current time or certain situations or things that even they notice in their own community and stuff. Because the players can be like can notice things or explore things around the stuff, but like if NPCs that are like very much more aware of the certain stuff that they hang out with, or if they're just like locals of a new town that the players are coming into those stuff, and if the player characters hear NPCs talking about said thing that's either weird, strange, or frustrating, that is also kind of like that nice little like gateway drug in a sense to be kind of like, hey, check it out, and to interact with them and kind of like see what's going on and all that stuff. So yeah, I feel like something to kind of like look at for like building that kind of like relationship with the antagonist NPCs and everything is something, for example, Death Note with like Light and L and everything, how they're very much playing this mental cat game of kind of like, all right, bam, 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 and all that stuff. I think Blaze Growth would be a judgment like the balance of stuff that can content the villain role of story demands. Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Blaze would immediately take the choice to be humble. Anyone contact get knocked down with Patriot 10. Oh yeah, definitely. And something that's also important when it comes to like NPCs and all that stuff is to honor when the players burn the bridge of this NPC and everything. Like it can be tempting for you wanting to bring back the NPC that's kind of like connected with this player and stuff, but if the player has like very much be like, yeah, I feel like this is a nice closing chapter to us and everything, and kind of like be like, we don't need to advance any further with that, or with an NPC that's trying to like do something and it's this kind and the player character is like, no, get the fuck out of my life, everything, and like they just burn that bridge and everything, like they burn their half of the bridge even when the NPC is like trying to like build a bridge to like connect. Honor that and just kind of like move on and stuff, because then the character has like made its purpose and done what it needs to be done and everything. Like not every NPC has to be active on the main roster and stuff. Like it's okay to retire some NPCs. Like even like some NPC stories are just like conclude naturally as the campaign goes on, and you don't need to like have that pressure to like continue on said story of that NPC when it feels like it has naturally concluded and stuff. Because yeah, it's just what humans are, and that's what makes a great story and stuff and all that. So yeah. And if you're a person who's very much kind of like having like struggles of coming up with NPCs on the spot, because it's very much kind of like a muscle and training thing you got to do. And hey, yeah, NPCs should come and go at any time by any means that are well within the story narrative. They aren't meant to stay. Exactly, they're not meant to stay forever. They are not meant to stay forever and everything. I feel like antagonist NPCs can sort of stay forever in a sense and stuff, unless they're like the BBEG NPC and stuff, sort of can like stay forever until they're like vanquished and all that. But yeah, it's very much something like that and stuff. But also, God, I was gonna make a great point. What was I gonna say? Something in the line of like what you said. Yeah, they aren't meant to stay forever. But yeah, the thing that is most important to do and say and everything is that even NPCs can decide to like, hey, I'm out. I'm out of this story. I'm out of this story and everything, and just be kind of like, nah, nah. Either from like what's happening in the world or what the characters of the players are doing and stuff and everything that doesn't agree, and they're just kind of like, no, this isn't for me. This isn't for me. All that stuff. So I think that's also pretty important to do and decide when it's time to like put it on the shelf and close that book and not feeling the need to like bring that back and stuff. We making sense here? We're making sense. Making sense. Let's check in. Let's check in. We've been rambling for about an hour and stuff and all, but we're making sense. We're making dollars. We're making half quarters and everything. Golden dollars. We're making shillings here. But yeah. So I think, yeah, if the NPC has run their course in the narrative of the party, or the party chooses not to have the NPC stay with them for any reason that makes sense to them, yeah, yeah, definitely, absolutely. It's something you're gonna have to learn and like feel the beat of like the NPC of like, yeah, this character has like run its course and all that stuff, and you can definitely try and like build a character that's sort of like the NPC, but it's kind of like that next stage that's so fresh and able to like do what the previous one was not able to do and all that stuff. But yeah, so just something to think about and stuff. But what was gonna say? Yeah, oh, okay. So for like training material for like building up NPCs and everything, because coming up with NPCs can be hard, especially on the spot and everything. So I think what to do and everything is very much, this is gonna be like some like recommended, not like required homework. This isn't like one of those like master classes where it's like I'm expecting you to like do the thing and I give you a grade and everything. No. This is like very much the vibe here is very much community night classes that's offered by the community, and just like providing these like cool lessons and stuff and everything. Something to like train yourself and everything is just kind of like to yourself on if you have like a game coming up and everything, think of 3 NPCs and kind of like list down of like how they affect the town, what do they want to do with that said town, and what were they able to do with that and all that, and just kind of like write kind of like a half like not a half paragraph, just write to one paragraph minimum of like what this character, what this NP is kind of like their history, all that stuff and everything. And also just tinker around with like character building sites like Pick Crew or Hero Forge and everything. I had a character in my fantasy story. I was debating how important I wanted her to be the main character. I want her to be the main. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. No, it's also important to have those discussions with yourself, with these NPCs and everything. It's like, okay, how important are these NPCs to be very much continuing on in the story and stuff like that and everything. And yeah, I think that's also kind of like a fun exercise as well. Like turn your brain off and just build a character on Hero Forge that just comes to you and everything. And then when you get the right color, the right weapon and everything, you can be very much like, oh, okay. It's very much kind of like what vibes that you are getting from this and this image character that you've created, and then building off of like, you can create like a little elevator pitch 1 paragraph thing to be kind of like, hey, here you go and everything. And then like do that like, I kind of want to say once a day to like build up that stamina and like muscle growth to be able to like, yo, here we go. And then you can like add the reps and everything. You can increase the reps. You can increase the weights of it and everything. You can like start like figuring things stuff and all that stuff. Yeah. Main supportive character, NPCs. Yeah, gotcha. Okay, what's up, friendos? This is Parker for the night, so I was lucky to have someone to pull up a circle around the line for a spot. Yeah, oh good, congratulations. We're doing a DM's talk of like discussion. Well, not kind of discussion, kind of like class lecture of like crafting NPCs and everything. So yeah, glad you're able to come in, buddy. But yeah, I think very much that'd be like a good homework training session to do and everything to do and all that stuff and everything. And also just like have like it's gonna sound weird, I think, because this is one of my methods I do when I'm like crafting characters, regardless of whether it's a story, a skit, a video, or for a game for tabletop RPGs, is that I just like go into like these monologues of the character and just like get a sense of what their head is like and everything. Like, okay, so there we got like we got like their ideals and everything, and something to kind of like help out to get you more in the feel of the said NPC and everything. Is just kind of like talking yourself in like monologues and kind of like if they're like kind of like monologuing about like reaction to like said thing and all that stuff. Maybe kind of like treat it kind of like an interview process. Kind of like treat it like a one-on-one interview process of very much like kind of like not a job interview, but kind of like going out for coffee and like getting the vibes of this new person that you're going out on a date with and everything. Yeah, like kind of like yeah, you know how those are like and everything. Like you meet this new person that you kind of like vibe with and everything, and you want to like get to know, break the ice, and kind of like build up kind of like that chemistry and all that stuff. So yeah, NPC crafting is difficult, not because it's making them hard, because the players will ignore those carefully crafted ones and latch on the passing people you'd even name. Yeah, I forgot to mention. Oh, the roommate was Blaze. Damn. I mean, that's the sort of like the nature of the beast and everything. I feel like that's like the nature of the beast of how like how the DMs can like craft like the most important NPC that's like required of a story, and they get attached to like these other NPCs that are like that aren't really connected to it and everything. And I think with like stuff like that, and how tabletop RPGs is like this wild game of improv you can't really 100% predict and everything. It's okay to like adapt and like remold the character into something to kind of like, all right, they love this NPC, they're attached to this NPC. How can I have this NPC that they're attached to and kind of ignore the one NPC they were supposed to go to kind of like not like railroad them into like it and everything. It's kind of like more like the waypointer line of like of how that NPC is like related to like the other important NPC and everything. Yeah. Make the plan, execute the plan, expect the plan to go off the rails, throw away the plans and everything. Throw away the plans, and then you kind of like, yeah, it's like you're just like adapting a little bit. Like, yeah, you kind of have to like bob weave, and like if someone changes up their fighting style a little bit, and it's like, okay, give me a second to like recalibrate here and be like bamboozle and stuff. Yeah, very much. And yeah, if an NPC that you had in mind in your original thought for like interacting with the players, and the players very much are kind of like going like, nah, or just kind of like shit on constantly and kind of like make as the butt of the joke. I think it's okay to kind of like run with that and very much kind of be like, all right, we're going to go in this direction instead and all that stuff. But if we're doing that, what's the cause for all this stuff and everything? You can go in depth with that. Because, like, let's look at going back to Dimension 20 and everything, because I've been on a Dimension 20 kick, because I've been watching Cloudwood Ho after watching, like, a finished up Starstruck Odyssey. And I'm only, like, halfway through Cloudstruck Ho and everything. But I definitely feel like Cloudstruck Ho is, like, easily top 3 campaigns of the Intrepid Heroes all time. Glorious. Yeah, I feel a lot of the Flash and Legend of Tomorrow stuff do have some lines that would fit in D&D. That quote from Capcom was the works. Yeah, very much. Yeah, very, very much so, and all that. Like, let's look at Galir and Goldenhorn and everything. Like, Galir was very much kind of like I think Galir was going to be like kind of like a one-off character to be kind of like a one of those like stepdad dudes that were like in one direction, but of how the players were kind of like reacting with Galir and like changing, and Brandon kind of like getting the vibe off the players and kind of like changing it to fit with the players, kind of like how they were viewing him and stuff, very much turned Galir into like one of the most beloved NPCs of all fucking time and everything in the Dimension 20 universe, not universe, in the Dimension 20 shows and stuff. Like, compare Galir from episode 1 to Galir now, they are diametrically extremely different characters and stuff and everything. And that's the case of very much of the DM going like, okay, initial plan of this NPC not really working with what's going on with how the players are reacting and stuff. So let's kind of like mold it to what the players are kind of like doing, and then we can like Baron of the Baroness. Yes, Baron, and also yeah, Baron of the Baroness and everything. I fucking love Barons. I fucking love. We're gonna get to the Baron. We're gonna get to Baron here after we talk about Goldenhorn. And Goldenhorn is very much supposed to be kind of like that strict teacher, that strict vice principal who's kind of like, all right, no shindig. Who's like, he's trying to be 100% serious, but all of the players were very much kind of like, yeah, no, fuck you. We're just gonna keep shitting on you. And that kind of like became his character as well, of kind of like trying to like overcompensate to the little shits of the bad kids to be like, I'm evil, guys, the fuck. And they're just like, they're never taking him seriously. That just is also kind of like an interesting character to like look at and stuff. But yes, let's talk about Baron of the Baronet of the Baronies and everything, because Baron was very much kind of like this made up like throwaway character that Riz made up, and everyone was like getting like partners, and with like Riz kind of like being like, Riz is ace. Riz is very much ace boy, just ace flat out and everything. And he was like made like kind of like so like, oh yeah, I got a partner, his name is Baron from the Baronies and everything and all that stuff. And then Brennan kind of like going off of making an NPC off of a throwaway line and all that stuff. It's just like genius, very much genius thing to do. And I think just how all that stuff, and I think that's always something good to think about when you hear like players and when you hear your players say things that seem like kind of like these throwaway jokes or not throwaway jokes or details. And if there's like if there's like a sliver needle of like an idea that you kind of want to like build that off to be kind of like a way for that's like was somehow created by the players and stuff, go for it, because that's very much true to the world of how reactive worlds can be with like how things are put up and everything. That's something you can do, and like helps. It also kind of like helps you out of like building characters. Like, ooh, actually that would make a great NPC right there, and you just kind of like, all right, build it, and then like you kind of like given the hints of like something's going on and stuff, and then you do like the slow reveal of that NPC from that throwaway line and everything, or that small detail that the players did and everything. It's just it's so good. It's like the Cabbage Man of Avatar: The Last Airbender, where somehow Cabbage Man kept getting his cabbages destroyed and everything. Yes, Bolo, very much Bolo of Calamity and everything, of how Bolo was like a one-off NPC that like Sam Riegel like made up on the spot, and then Brennan kind of like locked the fuck in and just went like, hello, I am Bolo, and just had like that glorious scene and everything. Like, that is something to do and everything. Like, if your players give you like an inch, if your players unintentionally or intentionally kind of like give you like the room to like build up this character and stuff for them to interact and stuff, you can plant that seed and just go magic time, spread it out and just go crazy. Oh god, I fucking love Bolo. Yeah. But yeah, I feel like that's very much all I have to like offer and say, DMing I think is hmm. Okay, I don't think well, it's kind of like that, but I feel like it's more I found Cabo Citrus Mountain Dew at this truck stop. Cabo Citrus? What the hell is Cabo Citrus? I'm not a Mountain Dew fan, so I don't. This is like ancient Eldritch text here. What the hell? But no, I feel like the ratio for like DMing is very much. I think it's this user flavor. Ah, gotcha. Is not 10% prep because there are things you have to prep and everything. I feel like it is 30% prep and 70% improv. Because like I've had games very much early on in my DMing career where it was just kind of like 10% prep, 90% improv and everything. And those are usually kind of like reserved for like easy, lax, like one shots or cozy, yeah, cozy, lax like sessions for like let's give a breather for like your campaign and stuff and everything. But I feel like the majority of like DMing for like stuff, it is 30% prep and 70% improv and everything. It is like, yeah, like you want like your prep should be the bone structure and everything of all that stuff and everything. It's like the bone structure, and then I just remembered in laws, I think Bloodkeep. Yeah. I just remember, yeah, those are great NPCs. And like the 70% is very much of just kind of like throwing the meat on the bones and then like kind of like molding it after like the reactions of like how the meat kind of like latches or not latches in the bone and all that stuff, and kind of like forming from there. And like sometimes the structure kind of like will kind of like fall apart from like via decisions or like unpredictable stuff, and it's okay to like not repatch, kind of like alter to kind of like fit in the new direction it's going and stuff. So yeah, pretty much like that. But yeah, no, that's all I got to say about that for my little talk and everything. Any questions from the class? Any questions, comments, concerns, queries, mumbles, bumbles, info dumps? Yeah. Yeah. And again, these like advices and stuff are just like my opinions and stuff. I ran a game level 1 and 20 where my entire prep was making the world map from my book and deciding to let my players do what they wanted and propping hooks once they're in a world to get them explored. Yeah, I think that's also kind of like a good thing to do and everything. I think that's kind of like a nice way of like a good prep style to do, of kind of like, all right, build my map, build my world and everything, and kind of very much of like the said of like choose where you go and I'll think of, and I can just like improv something because you're so comfortable in that world that you're able to like be able to craft things and stuff. Okay. Yeah. Okay. There's a lot of great NPC from Critical Role and Dimension trying to send out. Yeah. I also started listening to the Critical Fail. I have not heard of that one. Yeah. Oh, there are so many great NPCs from like with like Critical Role, Dimension 20, and like other APs. Remember there are other APs out there in the world that you can also check out that are great NPCs as well and stuff. Like these are just kind of like the examples that are my go-to and everything and all that stuff. But yeah, support all levels of AP, guys. Support all levels of AP. But yeah, okay. Critical Fail. Strodcast. Yeah. Okay. I thought Brandon Lee Mulligan was okay, but then I read his stove metaphor, and damn, that's stupid. Stove metaphor? I have not. Okay. Well, I've not heard of his stove metaphor. What's his stove metaphor? Strodcast. Oh, yeah. Strodcast is also very good. Okay. Okay. Let me do a Google search right here for. All right. Stove is a weird word. Okay, pretty Mulligan. Stove metaphor. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. 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 All right. Okay. Okay. Uh, yeah. Critical fail is the DM of Stradcast where the player is being called goons. That's glorious. All right. Okay. Calling DD counselor again would be like looking at a stove and being like, this has nothing to do with food. Look at him saying that other RPGs are pointless and everything should be D&D. Hmm. Well, okay. Okay. Well, all right. Well, okay. Hmm. Okay. Well, I'm kind of like looking at like a quote here. I'm googling up and everything, and yeah, looking at it, like looking more at it, it's like calling D&D a combat-oriented game would be sort of be looking at a stove and saying and being like, this has nothing to do with food. You can't eat metal. Clearly, this contraption is moving. Clearly, this contraption is for moving gas around and having a clock on it. If it was about food, there would be some food here. What you should get is a machine that is either made of food or has food in it. Okay, I think very much because Brennan Lee Mulligan is sort of like a little bit of a not a rules lord. He's kind of like those rule as written's guy, but he tends to like bend the rules as written to like help out and everything. And I think and this is my interpretation in here. This is not my not the clear definitive one. I think what it's trying to say and everything, since like that like calling one TTRPG system just like only like a combat game or a role playing game is kind of like looking at a tool or is like looking at a stove and saying like this has nothing to do with food like and everything like each system is like their own brand of stove or tool or equipment for like cooking in the kitchen and everything. Like surface thought, they have nothing to do with food, but like in the surface and everything, they have everything to do with food of with the variety that they can do of the variety that they can do and make the food into like different structures and stuff. I think that's what he was trying to say and everything. I don't know. I don't know. Like, yeah. I feel like if that was probably like a metaphor. If 90% of rules are about combat, it might be just game focus. I mean, yeah, that is true. But I guess also when it comes down to it with people like D&D is kind of like is that weird hodgepodge from like being like based in like was originally a war game and everything and kind of like slowly became very much a role playing exploration game in a sense, and you still have like these players who are very much kind of clinging on to like wanting it to stay like combat, or you have like players being like, I don't really like combat, I like the role playing aspect of it and all that stuff, and that's okay. Those are like two different like flavors and styles of like gameplay for TTRPGs and stuff and everything and all that stuff and all that. So yeah, it's like I think very much so. I feel like you can move from like if it's one aspect of a gameplay that you like in it and everything, it's not entirely focused on it, then yeah, I feel like you should probably like go into like a different TTRPG where you can have a lot more fun to explore with that freedom of that aspect of gameplay that you want to do. But I think also since D&D is like one of the more accessible TTRPGs out there and stuff and everything, and how like surface level with like combat of D&D can be overwhelming and clunky and stuff, that people tend just to kind of like push that aside or just kind of like minimize it. so that way they can still do the role playing aspect of it and all that. But yeah, those are just my thoughts and everything. Like, am I making sense here? Like, it's okay for like, even though if the game was like designed to be mostly combat and everything, it's okay for like the players and the DM to like collectively go and being like, we like the system, we just don't like the focus of it, and like group homebrew like the setting of like where the ratio of like different aspects of the gameplay can like go to and stuff. Okay, let's go raid somebody, shall we? Okay, alrighty potty. Alright, okay. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Who shall we raid today and everything? Who's live right now? Who is live? Okay. Okay. Who's on my following? Oh yeah, we can raid them. Yeah, let's raid them. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna send you guys over to a sync. Is that a capital I or a lowercase L? I can never tell. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He's a Navy vet. Oh, dope. Okay. All right. Ooh, he's playing Outer Wilds. Oh, dope. Okay. Dope. Oh, he's got a cool ass beard. Okay, cool. All right, I'm gonna send you guys over to the homie here. All right, you all have some good food, get some snacks and everything. Thank you for listening to the DMs talk and all that stuff. And yeah, I will see you guys next time. Okay. All right, the raid has been starting here. All right. Okay. All right. All right. All right, guys. Have a great day. Bye.